So that was Nauli Kriya, or the movement aspect of Nauli Kriya. There are actually 3 aspects to Nauli Kriya. There's the right side, the left side, and then Madhyana, where you do hold the 2 sides together, and those are actually stillness oriented. The exercise that I just demonstrated is the movement oriented Nauli Kriya, which I think is really nice for digestion. There are all sorts of not really scientific based claims made about the power of doing a Kriya like that. Not really sure about that. I don't have any data to back it up, but I do know that for me, doing this practice in the morning on an empty stomach does make me feel like things are moving along nicely for my digestive system. And I also think that there's a connection between learning this type of abdominal control and your transverse abdominals being able to work in other applications. I don't have any like direct scientific correlation that I can prove behind that, but it's a hunch that I have from my own practice. So I want to give you a few progressions for how to learn Nauli Kriya. So a few sort of prerequisites for doing Nauli are: 1, you have to be able to hold your breath for a little while with your at the end of your exhalation. And also, a sort of basic prerequisite is Uddiyana Bandha, which is the flying up or the hollowing of your belly held after exhalation. And then the next step from Uddiyana would be to learn Anusara, which is like belly flapping. So I'm going to show you those 2 with a few instructions, and then we'll get into the how to break down the Nauli step by step. So for Uddiyana, you exhale everything out, and it's important that you relax your abdominals when you do these. If you tighten up, you won't be able to, or brace, you won't be able to move your stomach, and that's effective in other applications, but not for learning how to do this. So for Uddiyana, you exhale everything out, hold your breath out, and then suck your belly up and underneath your rib cage. And there's also a sensation that like you're pulling from the throat without allowing air to come in through your nasal passages or your mouth. And sometimes in the beginning, it can be useful to make sort of a creepy, like almost, I don't know, like windpipe sound as you do that. So I'll show you Uddiyana. So everything exhale out, no inhale, let your belly relax, and then hollow it out up and underneath your rib cage. You release the bandha before you inhale, otherwise it's possible that your left kidney could fly out your right ear, and you don't want that to happen. If you have trouble with Uddiyana, you can try this weird sound thing that I'm going to show you next. It's a little unpleasant, so I'm just warning you for that, but I've had a lot of students have success learning how to do it with that. So the sound is like you're trying to pull air in, but you're not allowing air to come in because you keep the passageways closed. And that can sometimes help you to find the connection between the throat and the movement of the belly. Okay, so once you have Uddiyana, then the next thing that you work on is Anusara, which is just flapping in and out of Uddiyana without taking a breath. So that definitely has a different set of muscles that have to work compared to Nauli, but it's good to just, as a continual development of the abdominal awareness, that will take you to Nauli. The first step for Nauli, if you've got Uddiyana and you've got that Anusara belly flapping, is to start to, in my belief, isolate both sides at the same time so that you pull the sides in and let the center come out, and that will look like this. So I can really feel the underlayer side muscles of my abdomen work when I do that. It's actually not that mystical. Like there are layers of muscle that operate your abdominals, and that's really what you're learning how to do. And if you have some kind of mystical experience from doing this for a long time, then that's great. It's like a side benefit. Once you can do that isolation, the next step is to move your hips and pelvis in a way that facilitates the waving motion of your abdomen. So it gives you the side benefit of kind of a dance move that you can take into your life outside the yoga practice. So here you go. I'm going to move my belly this way, and so my hips will do the same thing. So the movement of the hips makes it easier to move your belly, and eventually you'll be able to isolate those two or uncouple them, but it's really helpful in the beginning. I'll show you the other side. I like to think of that almost like you're swishing around a pot, and by swishing around a pot, the ladle that you've left in the pot moves in a circle. For me, ironically, I actually learned how to do Nauli before I could isolate the center. So I could do it in a movement application before I could do it in a stillness application. But most people are going to have an easier time learning this first. Before going into the movement of the thing. The hip movement, I think, is really helpful. As you progress in this, if you want to up-level a little bit and add a little bit of coordination, there's a kind of cute thing that you can do called Nauli walks, where you walk sideways in synchronization with the wave movement of your belly. So I'll show you what that looks like just for fun. Coming back the other way. So it's an interesting party trick to show off if you ever go to a party on a totally empty stomach. But no, there is some beauty to these traditional aspects of the practice. And although that might not be integrated into an asana practice, I think it's a really powerful thing to do first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Also, traditionally, after you do your Nauli, so you've exhaled everything out to begin the Nauli. You do the Nauli as long as you can, and then you inhale, close your eyes, lock your hands behind you, hold your breath, contract Mula Bandha, which just means like you lift your perineum, tailbone goes forward, pubic bone goes back, put your tongue on the roof of your palate, and then when you exhale, you shoot your exhale up out the top of your head. And so I think one of the interesting things about physical practice, regardless of what kind of physical practice you can do, is to integrate an aspect of observation into the physical practice, whereby you simply observe what it felt like for you to do the thing. And this is a great way to use physical practice to connect to your body. So there's a lot of debate whether, for example, like Kapalabhati is good for you because it could be considered hyperventilation. And sometimes I think that some of the, it's not necessarily always about is there science behind the exercise. It's about creating an experience for yourself that you can then observe and have a meditative experience because of the physical activity in which you engage just prior to your observation. So I hope that this Nauli tutorial is useful. Feel free to drop me a question.